Hare Krishna.
बंद कर दे close.
Prabhu, there is some static. Someone has to go on mute.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, now it's clear, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. I welcome you all to our second session on Bhakti Sastri. So this is a service that we all have to take in very seriously, because this is the Sastric study that we are going to start, we are going to begin. And this is the service that we have to do to please His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and the whole disciplic succession. The expectation is that all of you, including myself, we go through this process and be very good in our Shastra, so that we can serve and be a good preacher. So this is definitely a course designed for a student to be more involved and engaged than the teacher. So my responsibility is going to be very much kind of go with you in a way that all of us can cross and easily get through the Bhakti Sastri studies. So what I would like to do today is that I sent you the study material, and if I get time, I'll just go over the homework. But before I do, I want to basically give you a summary of the first chapter. So as we'll go through chapter by chapter, our goal is to basically go over the summary, before I give you the homework to work on. So I'll provide you the summary of that chapter, and then you will basically go through the homework and try to answer all the questions one by one that's coming in the homework. So that will be the basically way we are going to proceed. So what I want to do today, we'll start the first chapter, and the title of the chapter is Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. So I'll basically try to highlight the main points from this chapter, and then after that, if time permits, I'll open one of the homework and then I'll try to explain how you have to work on your homework. So this chapter is the very first chapter, and title of this chapter is Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. So Bhagavad Gita has, if you really try to divide the whole contents, you can basically put them in three categories. The first 6th chapter talks about Karma Yoga, and then middle 6th chapter from 7 to 12 talks about Bhakti Yoga, and then last 3 chapters, it should be 13 to 18, that talks about Jnana Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is in the middle. We have Karma Yoga, and on the top we have Jnana Yoga. And they say that when you are eating a sandwich, you have bread on the top, you have bread in the bottom, but the main material that we eat is basically sandwiched in the center. So likewise, the Bhakti Yoga, the Buddhi Yoga process is sandwiched between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So entire Bhagavad Gita study is going to be 3 modules. And first 6 chapter is module 1. So I have sent you the homework and charts and other reading materials for 1 to 6 chapter. So as we proceed one by one, I'll be sending you the material for future module. But we have to also discuss how we want to basically go through the exams and everything. So first 6 chapter, the title of those chapters are given here on the slide. The second one is Contents of the Gita Summarize. Third chapter is Karma Yoga. Fourth chapter is Transcendental Knowledge. Fifth is Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And sixth one is Dhyan Yoga. So one by one, I will go through each chapter. Bhagavad Gita has 5 subjects. So there are other, aspects and other subject will be touching while going through the Bhagavad Gita. But the major topic, the major 5 prominent topics that we deal with in Bhagavad Gita, the first one is Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And second one is Jiva, the living entity. Third one is Prakriti, nature. And fourth is Kala, eternal time. And fifth one is Karma. So out of these 5 subjects that we will study in Bhagavad Gita, 4 of those are eternal. And the fifth one, Karma, our activity, is not eternal. So I wanted to, this is mentioned in introduction of Bhagavad Gita. So the first chapter basically has this 5 major section, and I will go over one by one. So the very first verse begins, Dhritarashtra is inquiring to Sanjaya. He's asking that how Mameka Pandavasya Kim Kurvati Sanjaya, including my son and Pandavas, what they are doing in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So now we are in a stage where everybody has come to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a holy place, and fight is about to begin. So at that time, Dhritarashtra is very, very perplexed. He's very, very, curious to see how things are, going on. So he is asking questions. So first verse is basically, he is asking the O Sanjaya, how my son and Pandavas are doing in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Then verse number 2 to 11. So from first verse, Sanjay is basically telling what's going on in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So verse number 2 to 11, Duryodhana is basically in a very diplomatic way describing the setup of the army, both the armies, how they are set up, who are in that side, each side, and he is very in a diplomatic way. He is basically talking to Dronacharya. So that is basically described in verse number 2 to verse number 11. And then from 12 to 19, now fight is going to begin. So Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra is Dharma Kshetra. The Kurukshetra is basically Dharma Kshetra. It's fight for Dharma. So all the great personality, including Lord Krishna and Pandavas, they started blowing their conch shells. And then verse number 20 to 27, we are basically going to see that how Arjuna is getting bewildered by observing the army. So in that section, verse 20 to 25, desiring to see Duryodhana and his armies, Arjuna is asking Krishna that please take the chariot in the middle of the 2 armies. And then while he gets into the middle, he is seeing all of his relatives and everybody gathered there to fight. So looking at them, he becomes very overwhelmed. So that part is described in section 20 to 27, verse number 20 to 27, where Arjuna is observing the armies. And then the fifth section of that chapter 1, is Arjuna is now giving the reason to not fight. So he is giving the reason, I should not fight for this reason, I should not fight for that reason, I should not fight for that reason, I should not fight for that reason. And he gives the reasons, he basically giving the full reason. And after giving that reason, he very much, throws his bow and arrow, and he gets completely overwhelmed and in full grief. So there, this chapter ends. So what we'll do is that we'll go one by one and see into each section what's exactly going on. So the first one, as we just heard, that Dhritarashtra is inquiring to Sanjaya about what's going on in the Kurukshetra, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Prabhupada starts writing that Dhritarashtra was blind from his birth. And unfortunately, he was also bereft of a spiritual vision. So he was both materially as well as spiritually blind. Dhritarashtra was not 100% sure with the outcomes of the fight. He was partially convinced that Pandava is going to win, and he was also partially convinced that his son will be victorious. And why he is partially convinced, the reasons are given here. The first one is that he was very desirous. He has desire to see his son as a king. He wanted to see Duryodhan as a king. Also, he was doubtful because he knew that his sons are not a religious person. So he had a doubt, and he had heard and seen the past life of Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was on the side of the Pandava. So he had that impression, and he was doubtful that, I don't know what will happen, my son will be victorious or not. At the same time, he was fearful. And the reason for his fearfulness was that the fight was happening in the holy place. In the holy place. It was happening in Kurukshetra. So he knew that Pandavas are pious people. So if the fight happens in the holy place, the result may go in favor of the pious people. So that was his fear. At the same time, he was hopeful. And his hope was that Pandavas are holy people. Pandavas are pious people. So they may decide that I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. Rather, I'll just give everything to Kaurava. Without having any fight, oh Krishna, please don't, basically, make me fight. I'm just going to give everything to Kaurava. And that's what in fact is happening. So these are the points that was making Dhritarashtra not fully confident with the outcome of the fight. At the same time, what was the Krishna plan? Krishna plan was that in the paddy field, which is called Kshetra, right? In the paddy field, weeds are taken out. Weeds are undesirable. Likewise, in the holy place, such as Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna wants to take all the weed, all the undesirable, all the unwanted, all the people who are not supporting the dharma to be wiped out. So that is Krishna plan. So that's what we have in first verse. In the later on verses, basically there will be discussion between Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. So moving to the second section, in that section, in verse number 2, Duryodhana is approaching to Dronacharya, and he is basically praising. He is observing the Pandavas' army, and he is praising the Pandavas. So how he is praising? He is not basically praising in a very positive way. Rather, he is taking a very diplomatic approach to praise armies of Pandava. He's saying that, oh, great teacher, he is referring to Dronacharya, and he's saying that you taught the son of Drupada. So there are so many, soldiers, so many, warriors in the army of Pandava, but he's pointing towards Dhristadyumna, who was son of Drupada, who was trained by Dronacharya. And the sole purpose of that training was that one day he's going to kill Dronacharya. So that's what Duryodhana is doing. He's pointing out that, see how nicely, all the soldiers and all the great warrior of the Pandava side is arranged in the battlefield. But you trained this person, this Dhristadyumna, who is going to kill you. So he is basically appreciating Pandava's army in a way that goes, his in his favor. So that's what he's trying to do. Plus, also, he knew that Dronacharya was very, very lenient. He was always liking Pandavas. So he wanted to point out that, please don't make the same mistake here. I know that you like Pandavas, but here you have already made a mistake training a person who is going to kill you. Don't be lenient here, rather fight very strongly against Pandavas. Then after looking at Pandava's army, he's looking at his army, and then he is praising that we have Bhishma, we have Karna, we have Kripacharya, we have Aswathama. These are the people who have always been victorious. They have never defeated any war. So by doing that, he is basically praising Dronacharya. That's what happens until verse number 9, and then verse number 10 to 11. Now he's making comparison, and he is saying that, on Pandava side, they have a very less experienced person, such as Bhima, who is general of the army. But see, on our side, we have Bhishma, who has experience of winning so many wars. He has won so many wars. So he is basically comparing and saying that our army is basically led by a very, very experienced general, which is none different than Bhishma. So he's basically kind of, appreciating. At the same time, he's also trying to, share with his army's member that Dronacharya and Bhishma, although they are great warrior, but they are old now. So when they appreciated, when Duryodhana appreciated Bhishma, other warrior, other members of the army heard. So just to encourage them, he's saying that it's all right that we have such an experienced general as Bhishma, but others will make sure that Bhishma and Dronacharya is safely protected. So that's how basically, in a very diplomatic way, he is kind of encouraging everybody to fight for him. So that's what is happening up to verse number 11. Then from 12 to 19, all the councils are being blown. And 12 to 13 describes that Bhishma Deva blew his council. Then verse number 14 says that Lord, who is basically riding on white horses, sounded his council. And then verse number 15 to 16 gives the name of all the councils that are being blown. And Rishikesha, which is Krishna, master of the senses, his council is Panchajanya. Arjuna's council is Devadatta. So all the names are given in the part. Bhima's is Pandra. Yudhishthira's council is Anant Vijaya. Nakula is Shughosha's, and Sahadeva is Manu Pushpaka. So these names are given. And then 17 to 18 verse numbers continue talking about other members following their counsel. But what happens, see in verse number 19, by hearing the sound of all the counsel, the heart of Kauravas are shattering. On the other hand, Pandavas are not affected by that. And it's mentioned that the reason for Pandavas to not get fearful because they had deeply taken the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They knew that Krishna is on their side. So there is no reason for them to be fearful. On the other hand, Kauravas, they had everybody, such as Aswathama, Karna, Bhismitama himself, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, all the big names are in the Kaurava side in reality. But still, their heart is shattered because they do not have the blessing of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Hari. So then, the next section is basically where Arjuna is now observing the armies. So, verse number 20 talks, Arjuna took up his bow and now he is preparing to shoot the arrow. He is ready to fight. And then 21 to 23 says that before he starts fighting, he is asking Krishna that, "O Achyuta, O infallible one, please draw my chariot in the middle of two armies. So take my chariot in the middle of two armies so that I can see who are present here." And then it's mentioned why Arjuna is using the word Achyuta, because Supreme Personality of Godhead is also known as Achyuta. Krishna is also known as Achyuta. And Achyuta means he never falls from his promise, especially when his devotee asks him something, he always does in the favor of his devotee. So at this particular time, Arjuna is calling him as Achyuta. Arjuna has no desire to fight with his cousin. So he wanted to, before he will begin the fight, he wanted to basically estimate and understand who are the people whom I am going to fight against. So these are the two reasons given why Arjuna but requested Krishna to take the chariot in the middle. Also, not in the Bhagavad Gita, not there in that purport, but it's also mentioned that this was Krishna's desire, because Krishna wanted to get in the middle of the both army and show himself to all the soul there, because he knew that they are going to be annihilated. But before they get annihilated, if they will have my darshan, then their life will be successful. So there are, our acharyas present that in many ways, but in the context of what we have to know, that these are the two reasons. The first one is that Arjuna is calling Achyuta because he wants to see who are there, and the reason behind that, because he wants to see who are the people whom I am going to kill or whom I am going to fight with. So that is why he is requesting Krishna that please take my chariot in the middle of both the armies. And then verse number 24 to 25, basically Krishna took the chariot in the middle of both the armies, and in that discussion there are some names used. So Rishikesa word is used there, and Rishikesa because Krishna can understand the mind of Arjuna. So Rishikesa refers to the person who is honor of the senses. So Krishna can understand the mind of Arjuna. Gudakesa is referred here for Arjuna, and Gudka means sleeping, and Gudakesa means one who has conquered the sleeping. And then also the word Partha. Partha is being used there for Krishna because, for Arjuna, because Arjuna is son of Pritha, Mother Kunti. So some of the terms there are used, and those terms may come in your homework. What is the meaning of Rishikesa, and why Arjuna is called here as Gudakesa? So some of the answer is right there. And then in the next, we continue basically in the same section. So what happening is that when Arjuna was in the middle of both the armies, now he's looking at both sides. He's looking at both sides. And we have given here a list of all the relatives that he's seeing. So this is the reason I thought to present that list, to see who are there and whom Arjuna is looking at. If you really look at the complexity, how difficult it is for Arjuna to fight, you can see that he is seeing from his grandfather to his grandson. So everybody is in the field of battlefield of Kurukshetra, and doesn't matter who wins the war. Ultimately, the loss is going to be his, because he is going to lose his relatives. So by looking at all of his relatives, Arjuna becomes completely bewildered, completely in full grief. And then the note is made there that this was basically illusion created by Krishna, because he wanted to bring that supermost instruction of Bhagavad Gita for conditioned soul, for the generations to come, especially in the age of Kali, so that they can hear the glorious message of Bhagavad Gita, and they can guide and take the instruction for their lives. So the last section is basically Arjuna is now giving the reason. He's saying why I should not fight. And there are 4 reasons Arjuna gives. And he says that these are the 4 reasons I think, Krishna, I should not fight. So first one, he says, he's very compassionate for his friends and relatives. He says that, what good it does killing, my own relatives, killing my own kinsmen. They are all mine. Either they become king or I become king. How much good it's going to be for us. And second reason he is giving is that there is no enjoyment even if I become victorious, because there'll be no one to see. So this is the second reason he's giving. So these 4 reasons you may have to remember. So second one, why, what is the point of becoming the victorious? Because if all of them are killed, then who is there to appreciate my victory? And third reason he's giving is that his fear of sinful reaction. He thinks that by killing them, he's going to incur sins, and he's fearful for that sin. And the fourth reason he gives is that by this killing, the family tradition is going to be destructed. So the later verses, basically, he explains why he thinks that the family lineage, the family tradition is going to be destructed. So he will explain one by one why he thinks so. So these are the 4 reasons Arjuna is saying that I must not fight. Also, in the purport of verse number 36, there is a type of aggressor mentioned. There are 6 types of aggressor. The first one is one who gives poison, one who sets fire to the house of others, one who attacks with deadly weapons, and one who plunders the riches, one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps other wife. So these six type of aggressor, they are sinner, and Manu Asmriti says that there is no harm by killing these six type of aggressor. So you may have, you might have question, or you may use those somewhere in your essay, or if you have to, if there is question asked about who are those six type of aggressor mentioned in the purport of verse 36. Then we continue, and so I think we went back. Okay, here. So he gave the 4 reasons to not fight, and then I try to basically kind of make it more obvious. One of the reasons that he is giving is that the 4th reason is that by fighting, by doing this fight, I'm going to basically destroy the family tradition. So what he's saying that kul akshaya, kulakshaya, means by this fight, very first thing is that we are going to kill our own people, which is destruction of my own dynasty, killing our own people. And what will happen is that by that killing, pranashyanti kula dharmaha, the family tradition will stop. We kill our people, and by that the family tradition will stop. And with that, what will happen? Adharmo avivati, the irreligious things will increase. The religious, environment will increase by killing our people, the killing people of our dynasty. And with that, pradushanti kula istriya. So if all the men are killed, then all the women will become polluted. And when women are polluted, then Varna Sankara will happen. Unwanted progeny will take place. And then further, he is saying that what happened? The person who is responsible for all of the 5 items on the top, which is leading to the point where there will be unwanted progeny, he is saying that that person will go to Naraka. That person who is doing this, who is killing their own family members and leading the family to the stage where there will be unwanted progeny, that person will basically go to the hellish planet. He also says that if the members are killed, then there will be nobody left in the family to do the pindadan. It's one of the offering that the generation does for their forefather. So he's saying that if the younger generations are killed, then who are going to do that pindadan to the senior members of the family? And then lastly, he's saying that all the community and family welfare project are going to be completely destroyed. Okay, so he is giving a very solid reason to not fight. But if you really very carefully see, most of his argument is based on bodily relationship. What he's saying is mostly based on the bodily relationship. So he said all of that, and then after that, very much he throws his bow and arrow aside, and he basically sat down on the chariot, overwhelmed with the grief that, my dear Lord, I don't want to fight. Okay, so here this chapter ends. This chapter ends where Arjuna is now completely overwhelmed and in full grief to hear the next chapter. So that's what the summary of the first chapter is. I also want to basically now go over and share with you the homework that I sent. Let's see, what is that? Hare Krishna. So can you see? Anybody can confirm us if you can
Yes,
see.
yes, we can see.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So I sent basically homework, 6 homework, 1 for each chapter. And I just wanted to kind of explain what is expected from you, from each of you. So we are going to have content specific question. And that's basically question which is related to either verse or purport. So the answer of those questions are exactly right in the verse or in the purport. So the answer should not be too long. I mean, you can write, too long, but the thing is that it's nice that you just, look for the main point and then try to, finish maximum up to 4 sentences. So content specific question is going to basically verse number 3 to 11, 1 to, 3, like 1 to 2, like that. And then there will be questions related to that particular context. So you can find the answer, but those questions are designed in a way that you read Prabhupada's purport. You read, Bhagavad Gita thoroughly to find the answer, and then you write the answer. Then in each chapter, there will be 4 to 5, depending on how many lessons we have in each chapter. For each lesson, more or less, there will be one generic question. And what that does is that it's kind of essay type of question. So the question will come that, in the Vedic tradition also, in the Vedic Yuga also, there was fight. There was fight in the Vedic Yuga also. Kaura fought with Pandavas. Lord Ramchand fought with Ravana's armies. So there was fight in the age of, Dwapar and Treta, and in Satyuga as well. And there is fight even today. So please tell what's the difference, and there you can become very, very creative. You can pull out your information from different, sources, and you can write it. You can take, some of the example from the readings that you have been doing. But what that, does is that for generic question, there will be some guideline given. So like, for example, I'm talking here, or you will be tomorrow giving lecture somewhere. So, okay, we have to make a presentation on that particular topic, and we have to follow these certain guidelines. So there are some marking keys, and marking keys will basically give you some idea that your answers should be basically following these steps or going through this channel. So you read the marking key, and then you try to answer those essay type questions, staying in the context of marking keys. Okay, and as I said, just one of the example that, there was fight in the Vedic tradition. In the Vedic Yuga, there is fight today also. What's the difference in the fight? Okay, and then there'll be markers saying that look at, what is the nature of the fight that's happening today. Okay, in Vedic tradition, the fight that happened was for dharma sanstapana. The fight was happening to establish the dharma. Today, we are fighting to increase our boundary. So those kind of things, make some critical, comparison that justify Vedic fight versus fight that happens in today's society. There'll be also some hint given for the answer. So for essay type, question, there'll be some hint given that this is the thing you have to write, but here are a few topics. So choose, one, and one of, choose one of the topic, and then try to stay guideline giving into the marking key, and then write the essay. So for the essay, try to go up to 300 words, 300. Sometimes it may happen that you are in the flow of your thought process and you still have some good points to say. You haven't said it. So if your word count is 300, that doesn't mean that you stop right there. Rather, make your point. If you have to, write 500 or 400, words to make your point very strongly, please do so. So it's up to you. It's very much your call how you want to framework your writing so that you can say things in a very precise, in a very concise way, and make the point clear, so that the instructor or the reviewer can understand what you are thinking. So that's what will happen basically. In each chapter there will be content specific questions, and you can see here why Bhagavad Gita is the perfect theistic science. It's perfect theistic science because it's spoken by Lord Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Hari by himself. What could be better than that? What other theistic science could be better than Bhagavad Gita? Name the 4 powerful fighter on the side of Kaurava and 4 on the side of Pandava. For that one, I mean, you have just to give the 4 names. Right? Don't write too much. So if you really try to answer those questions, staying in the guideline, staying in the framework of guideline, you can save your time and we can quickly go from one chapter to other chapter. Here, there is a generic question, and it says that considering the many current topical issues in the society, choose a verse passage that could constructively contribute towards that debate. Explain why you choose this verse/passage. The hint for the answer is given. Discussion on concept of war in Vedic and modern society. So that's the hint given, that you can write on the concept of war in Vedic and modern society. And then there is some guideline given that mention at least 3 points of difference between the modern way and Vedic wars and warriors. Select references appropriate to a range of moral, social, topical, personal, and theological issues. Demonstrate how the Krishna conscious theology, often expressed in terms of Vedic social context, is relevant today and in a different cultural setting. Identify the principle and value behind Vedic and Vaishnava injunctions and other context relevant instructions, and apply them according to time, place, and circumstance, and specifically within the contemporary context. And then you can start writing your essay. Like here is one of the example that's written. But when I did the word count, it was basically 163 word more. So we were supposed to get up to 300 words, but this is 463. That's not bad. This is very close to 300. So that's what it is. You try to basically stay within up to 300 words, but sometimes if you have to go over, there is no issue with that. Likewise, there are second lesson, content specific questions, and then there are generic questions. We'll continue, likewise. So one after another, there will be lessons, and each lesson will have content specific and generic questions. From each chapter, you have to basically answer all the content specific questions. There is no option there. But for generic essay type questions, so in this chapter, I have how many lessons? 4 lessons. So there are 4 essay type questions. So you read one by one, and you'll find one that you are very enthusiastic. You feel, oh wow, I want to write on this one. Totally up to you. Whichever one you decide to write on, choose that one, and write your essay. So that's all I had to share with you. I just wanted to let you know also that this Bhakti Sastri course is designed for you to study the 4 books that covers under Bhakti Sastri very systematically, very thoroughly, and develop your knowledge base. So as far myself is concerned, I'll be just coming and supporting as needed. If you have any doubt, any question, any concern, I'll be helping there. But it's very much for you to get into it and dive deeper. I know all of you are very busy. You have so many services to do, but take this as a service. This is not something that is not part of your service. This is part of our service. Likewise, we have other services. This is also one of our service, and we have to show our dedication. We have to show our dedication to study Shastra thoroughly, and that's why Bhakti Sastri format is designed the way it is, to help us understand our Shastra, especially Prabhupada's writing. So that's all I had today to share with all of you. If you have any specific question, I'll take it. Otherwise, we'll be done. So as I said, sometimes it may happen that in one session, for example, chapter 2 is going to be a big chapter. So it might not be possible to cover that chapter in one session. We might have to split in 2 sessions. So depending on the size of the chapter, sometimes we might be done earlier, sometimes it might take longer. The first chapter is really not a lot of philosophy. It's very much kind of, context and the sections and what's going on. It's kind of a story type thing. So, I might be kind of wrapping it up quickly, but once we get into the section of Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, Dhyan Yoga, where tons of philosophical point is coming, then each and every point will, take our time to understand it correctly, what exactly it means, and then we'll try to understand from different perspective what exactly this means in this context, what it means in that context. So that kind of discussion, will happen. So in that case, we might not be able to finish one chapter in one session. We might have to, go through, 2 or 3 sessions, depending on the size of the chapter, depending on the philosophical point that is made into the chapter, depending on how curious and how many questions you have from that chapter. All of that will decide that can we do that session can we do that chapter in one session, or we have to have multiple sessions. So that's why the time for this course is year to a year and a half, and we'll basically go through it in a way that it's a very pleasant journey for you. The point here is that we have to go through this course in a very pleasant way, in a very happy way. So that's the point. Okay, so I'll pause here and see if there is any question, any comment, anything that anybody has.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So that means there are 4 assignments, no? This for this chapter, and for all the 4 we need to submit by this week.
So that's something we have to discuss. It depends, how we all want to do. My preference would be that we all should proceed together as a team. And in that way, we have to be cooperative, cooperate with each other and, try to move together. Second thing is that there will be some sort of, sincerity, some commitment is, required from each and everybody. So if we take this, when I got enrolled in the Bhakti Sastri, I'll go in my own way, the way I want to do, then it will go in multi-direction. Bhakti Sastri, course definitely requires some commitment, and it will require your kind of time. You'll have to dedicate for it. So if we all of us are dedicated to do at least some homework every day, then these four lessons, I think we should be able to get done in 1 week. But that thing, I really do not have answer for that. I would say that we should try to get it done by next week. So from now until next week, 5-6 days, 1 chapter, and those questions, I think we should be able to get done. That's what I would say. But if anything comes, then we'll talk about it. Is it possible for everybody to finish this chapter by next week or not?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
And I have one specific question. In the Kaurava side, Bhishma Pitamaha is the army chief. But why Duryodhana went to Dronacharya instead of going to the army chief of Pitamaha in the beginning?
Yeah. So one of the reason was mentioned there, that he basically, as you saw, the section says that Duryodhana is being diplomatic. Okay. So he wanted to basically go and find he can easily find the fault, because he had seen his things, how Dronacharya is more attached. And even Bhishma Pitama was also attached to Pandava more than he was with Kaurava. But Bhishma Pitama is a different personality. But in this case, he preferred to go to Dronacharya because he can point out that, you made a mistake by teaching this Dumna who is fighting against you. So by pointing that mistake, basically he is trying to increase the awareness, or he's trying to send the message that nobody should make any mistake. I know even Bhishma Pitama has some leniency towards Pandava. He should also not, make any mistake. So by doing that, basically he is trying to point out that we are in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and we should not make any mistake. And those are mentioned there. That's why I had those points written. He wanted to basically, get full commitment from Dronacharya and from Bhishma Pitama.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have a little doubt. So do we send the answers in a Word document and send it email to you?
Yes, Mataji, yes. Individually. So you answer your questions, you do your homework, and then you send email to me directly. I'm working on it. We might, in maybe, after few classes or few sessions, I might find a better option, something online. But for now, please work on your homework and send the homework back to me. If you want to send in PDF way, if you want to basically transfer in the PDF document and send it to me, I'm good with that. But the homework after your completion has to come to me in individual email, separate email, just send to me.
Okay, Prabhuji, but in PDF it will be difficult for you to if you want to make any corrections or something like that.
Yeah, but in PDF also, I can make some comments, but not as user friendly as I can have if you send me in the Word document.
Okay, Prabhuji, we can send it in the MS Word.
Yeah, MS Word is good. I think it's easier.
So Prabhu, in the same document, just we can type and send it, right?
Yeah, just like I have done here,
Yeah.
example that we do. You basically, enter here. So here, you just enter and then start your answer. That's all, whatever answer is there. And that's all. What I did, I like basically just changing a color if you want to do that. So that should be good enough.
Prabhuji, just one more small doubt. Do we have to mention the verse number or anything like that, the text number?
No. So the way these questions are designed, basically it follows very well. So you don't have to specify any verse number or anything if you are working on that. But if you are citing something from outside, okay, if you are just to make your point, if you are citing something from somewhere else, either you can just put the translation, but if you know the reference, you can present that. But just to answer these questions, no. Just write the answer. Like here, please explain significance of Krishna named Achyuta. So I had that on my slide. So that's all. Just say Achyuta means he always keeps the promise of his devotee. He never falls down. So answer should be, you write so many things, but you don't say the main thing, then that will be, a problem. Not a problem, but we don't want that. But we don't worry too much about quoting the purport and, from this verse. If it's in that, so these questions that you are seeing here is from verse number 14 to 27. So if you are in that verse, and if your answer is coming from those verses, don't worry. But if you quote something from different chapter or something Prabhupada has said somewhere else, then you can say that purport, 2.9 here. So, but that's also optional. If you say that,
Prabhu,
yes, Prabhu, Hari Bol.
oh, quick question. So for each lesson, do we write an essay for each lesson or just for the chapter 1 essay?
No, one essay each chapter.
Okay, okay.
So there will be 5 essays in this, 4 essays in this chapter, since there are 4 lessons. But you can pick the one, Prabhu, that you like writing, and you can write on.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
And recording of this presentation and the presentations which you are giving will be available?
Yes, so I'm going to basically, so what I'm going to do is that, and this is for future classes also, any lecture that's happening, everything is going to be recorded, and I'm going to post it on YouTube. So I'll send you the link, and all the lectures are going to be there. The previous lecture that I did, this lecture that I did, and any upcoming future lecture, all of that I'm going to house, at YouTube channel, so that the future students who are going to join this Bhakti Sastri course, for them also, everything is ready.
Thank you.
Will you be also sending the PowerPoint presentation, Prabhu?
If you prefer, I can send the PowerPoint presentation too.
Yeah, it will be good.
So I'll be sending the PowerPoint presentation if you decide. But the thing is that, on YouTube, on the channel, the way I'm talking, everything is going to be there. So that's the intent, because instead of sending, because sometimes, once we get to the bigger chapters, like 11 chapter, there will be like really, and then I'm trying to put pictures to make the point clear, what's the context going on. Then the slide might be bigger. In that case, either we have to find a kind of drive somewhere where we can put it, so that everybody can go and access. So we'll be kind of working on those things as we go along. But for now, if you prefer, I'll send you the presentation also.
Yeah, it will be good for reference, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Prabhu, also, are you expecting us to read the chapter before the class, Prabhu?
No. So what I'm expecting is that if you read, I think I had an impression that whatever I spoke, if all of you know this thing, okay. So the point here is that I know you will be doing your, so I gave basically, summary of chapter 1, and I'll send the PowerPoint presentation. You do your homework. So what will happen is that you will have some doubts, some questions while you are going through it. So next Saturday when we meet, when we are going through the summary of chapter 2, if you want to bring like this type of discussion when it happens, Prabhu, here, something like that was mentioned. What do you think, or what's the answer for that? This type of setup that we are here together, it's not only my answer. You all can also, say that, I think like that, I think like that. And that's the benefit of doing here, Bhakti Sastri, because we are going to cohesively work with each other and help each other to understand things. So no, you are not expected, but after, this session, like, I did the first chapter, now you are expected to basically read chapter 1, the verse and purport.
Okay, thank you.
That's how I think we'll keep. So now you should be working on homework for first chapter. And then if you have some doubt and some concern, the PowerPoint that I'm going to send will have some answer there. Not everything will be there, but at least PowerPoint, what that PowerPoint did is that gave us a very good framework. Okay, this chapter starts here. Everybody is getting in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and it ends where Arjuna is now completely in grief, and he, basically ready to hear more now. So that's what it is. So from next chapter, we'll begin from there. So that's how it will happen. So once we have the summary of the next chapter, then we can start reading the next chapter and doing the homework.
Okay.
Prabhu, by when we should submit the homework? I mean, I missed that point.
The homework should be submitted, by Friday, latest by Friday or Saturday morning before next session. So if we do every time 2 p.m. on Saturday, then as long as you submit, by today, I'm okay. The reason here is that if we put some strict guideline, then we are going to progress.
Yes. Yeah.
My impression is that, when I was in Dallas, when I started Bhakti Sastri, we had 80 devotees enroll into the program. And slowly, only 3 or 4 of us were able to go through the program. Why? Because there's, so we have, that's why I'm requesting all of you that you will love it. You will love it. Once you will basically get into the rhythm and you will start writing the scripture, loving the scripture. If you start, loving it, you will say, wow, I'm so fortunate that I'm doing it. So that in the beginning, we have to little bit push ourselves. So, it needs some commitment, and we are studying Shastra. This will help you understand, everything, right? So that's why have some commitment and make yourself responsible to do things in a certain way. And then, you love it. So we have to have some strict guideline in place for us to move. So I would say that, on Saturday, before the session happens, if you can do the homework, submit it, that'll be nice. If we have a bigger chapter, we may need more than a week. But for this chapter, I don't think that we need more than a week. 1 week is sufficient, more than sufficient. So that's how we'll proceed.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So many of you has not, completed the registration form. The donations, I think, if you want to pay in the installment, if you want to pay slowly as we go along, this is a donation that we are, doing for the higher cause. But registration form is needed because once we complete the course, I will have to basically, get the certificate for you. So I need that form done. So please, if you have not sent the format, please do so. Also, you can send me the check at my home address. I gave also my PayPal account. Also, I have a Bank of America, Zelle account. So anything that works with you, please use that and give both of these items. Sounds good, Prabhu, Mataji's?
One quick question.
Yes.
So is there a milestone after we complete 6 chapters? Is there a like a formal test?
Yes. Who is this Mataji? Is Deepa Mataji?
Usually from North Carolina.
Oh, Hare Krishna Mataji Dandavata. Yes. So each module will have a test, and we'll see how long it takes to get there, and then we'll talk about that later. It's nice to finish the module and then give the test.
When it's still fresh in your mind.
Yes, because yes. Many devotees, they just do the homework and then they start giving the exams. What happens, it's kind of difficult. Now you have to go back and redo everything. So while you are doing your homework, everything will be fresh in your mind. And at that point, we can basically, right after finishing the module, we can do the exam. And also there is a list of verses that we have to memorize. So I also sent you the list. So look at the, all the, documents that I have sent you and see if you have any questions on that one, like in the list of verses. I also send you some additional reading. So, but the main reading for this course is Prabhupada's, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and then Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and Ishopanishad, the original book that comes from BBT. That's the main book we are reading, and purport. That's the main reading material.
So what's the sequence, Prabhu? First Bhagavad Gita and then?
The first we are going to basically finish Bhagavad Gita. Many places they start with Nectar of Devotion, but those books are talking a lot of philosophy. Mm-hmm. So my personal preference is that let's go through Bhagavad Gita. So we'll finish Bhagavad Gita 3 module, and then we'll have Nectar of Devotion. And then after that, we'll go to the Nectar of Instruction. And Ishopanishad is Upanishad. Upanishad talks things, high up here, okay? So to understand the language of Upanishad, we need this background. So that is why we are going to have Upanishad as a last module, 6th module. So that's what I have, framed it work. That's what I have structured it so that, it will be easy to digest the subject as we progress. We don't want to go into Upanishad or nectar of, instruction right now. Let's go with, like we just had chapter 1. It was more like a story, diplomacy, what he wants, what he doesn't want, those kind of things. So slowly and slowly we'll build up. Okay, you all good now?
Haribol, yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ramakishore Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
So we'll have the Vaishnava pranams. Vanshkalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evasya patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Symbol Bhakti ki jai. Divine Gracious Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Your time, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.